This morning I'll be talking about, I think Daddy just helped me yesterday when he mentioned Welcome to the Future as his title last night. I've been thinking, okay, what do I say to the church, really? Because science and tech is like a very big elephant, and you're touching the tail and you think it's just a long rope, or the ear and you think it's one wide something like that. It's a very massive thing. But God will help us this morning and will direct our focus to what he wants us to hear. This morning I'll be talking about imagining the future. What kind of future are we looking at? The future is actually here with us. And if we do not key into it as fast as possible, we're going to lose out. But God knows that if we don't, he will raise other vessels to key into it, because the agenda of God is always constant, and he will always find vessels to fulfill whatever he wants to do. In starting up my discussion this morning, I would like us to look at Deuteronomy chapter 7. It's a very key passage. It says, when the Lord your God brings you into the land which you go to possess, and has cast out many nations before you. Pastor, I've been talking about nations. Our thinking, our focus, our mindset, when we hear nations, it should be changing right now. Not just geographical, but other ways to denominate or classify nations. He says, and has cast out many nations before you, the Hittites, the Girgashites, the Amorites, and the Canaanites, and the Perizzites, and the Hivites, and the Jebusites, 7 nations greater and mightier than you. I actually underline that. Greater and mightier than you. These mountains that we're looking at going to take, the people occupying those mountains right now, they are greater and mightier than us. Physically, if we look at it, literally, they are greater and they are mightier. Sincerely, no kidding. So if we're going to go in there, we need to be bold, be courageous, and realize that we cannot do it on our own. Okay? We have the Holy Spirit to help us. When Jesus was leaving, he said he's going to send us a comforter who is going to teach us into all truth. The truth about dethroning the nations that are occupying the mountains that we want to take over. The Holy Spirit will teach us how to go about it. But one thing that we need to know is that it's not child's play. It's not business as usual. There is all grace for all sufficiency. But grace for all sufficiency will mean that you're going to do the impossible. If I want to eat breakfast and I have food in my front like this, I can eat the food. I don't really need grace to eat that food. Literally, I don't need grace to eat food, because God has already given me that freely to do. But if I need to go and kill a whale in the ocean to eat as breakfast, I need grace. Serious grace to do that. And that is the kind of thinking we need to have going forward. That these mountains, they are not child's play. We need to do work. And we need to double our efforts. In the local parlance, they say double your hustle. We have to double our hustle. Not the way we do it these days. There's a particular quote that I'm going to just refer to by Winston Churchill. It says, the farther backward you can look will help you determine the farther forward you are likely to see. In examining the mountain of science and tech from the perspective that I'm going to talk about, I'm going to be running through some of the revolutions that have happened in this space. And we have the Industrial Revolution. There's the first, second, third, fourth. We don't know where we are right now, whether we are on the third or the fourth. But on the first revolution, there are areas of life that this particular industrial revolution touched on. And I highlighted them on the screen. You have transportation, communication, and energy. And if you watch these particular areas or aspects of our lives, it's constant. Whatever revolution that we're in, whether in the first or the fourth or the fifth, is still going to touch on these areas, because there are things that actually help society to move forward. There are things that help us to do what we need to do. There are things that help us to achieve our aim. In transportation, people needed to move from one location to the other. In the olden days, the days of the Bible when Jesus was alive and all the rest, they go by horses, donkeys and all the rest. But this first industrial revolution brought about locomotive and the steam engines, the steam ships. Locomotive, steam ships were discovered, were brought to life by this first revolution, industrial revolution. In communication, we looked at printing and telegraph. Then in energy, we had coal and steam. I just highlighted this. There are quite a number of other things that were done during that era. And this was between 1760 to 1830. Now people have done stuff like this. We are still battling with energy in this part of the world. But we're going to get to that. If we move forward, between 1870 to 1970, we had what we call the Second Industrial Revolution. These are eras where things were happening, very fast. And this particular second revolution, they called it the special century. It's actually 100 years. So many things happened. And if you check very well, the people that were controlling economy before now, before the likes of the Gen Zs came on board, they were actually giving birth towards the tail end of this era. And if you check again, we'll look at energy, transportation, and communication. What has happened? There has been movement. People have moved. They've looked at things that they needed to improve upon, and they've worked on it. These things that happened, they are not just wishy-washy. People actually spend sleepless nights researching. And one thing with us believers is that we tend to be lazy. Christians are lazy outside the church. We can pray. We can fast for 40 days. But can somebody say, okay, the fast that I want to do right now is to pick up a topic and study it for 40 days without stopping? I want to study about alternative energy, and I want to spend 40 days. There's this psychological, what would I call it now? Belief that whatever you can do consistently for 21 days, you're actually going to break the habit that is stopping you, or you create a new habit. So if you want to learn anything, if you keep studying it for 21 days, you actually move past the first level. If you do another 21 days, you get better in it. By the time you do 63 days, by a particular doctor that studies the brain, said by the time you study something for 63 days, you're actually going to you overcome whatever has been holding you back in getting through that thing. And he said if you study something for 1,000 or 10,000 hours, you become a master in it. If you want to be a master in anything, if you spend 10,000 hours, however you want to calculate it. For the second industrial revolution, several things happened. Electricity, we had oil, in transportation, combustion vehicles. The Ford vehicles came on board and all the rest. And things became better. Life became, better. And then in this era, people started measuring standard of living. This was the era when that particular phrase, standard of living, came out. And people started measuring that, we're doing better, we're not this, we're getting there, It was actually the era of the worker, the industrial worker. People work in industries and all the rest. Several industries came up, and there was so much to go on. Telephone, radio, television, everything came up, and so many things happened. It was a special century, actually. I wasn't born in that century. But, we get to hear about it, and we see some of those things. Some of these things that came up in those centuries, we're still grappling to even understand them in this part of the world. And one thing that you should see is that whatever you see as a disadvantage, whatever you see as a problem, you need to flip it around. That is where the solution is. That is where the opportunity is. We see ourselves in this part of the world that there is chaos. There's too much people in Lagos, all the rest. Investors are seeing money. We are seeing people in Oshodi. That, the number of people in Oshodi are too much. The investors that want to invest money, they are seeing, if I have a solution that I can sell, and 10 million people can pay 1,000 naira. That's already like 1 billion or 10 billion naira that you are going to be making. So if we start thinking in numbers, we'll get to appreciate our capacity, the size that we have. And one thing that we need to know is that the way the world is going, the population of Africa will soon overtake the population of Europe, America, very easily. As we're going, they are controlling their bets. We are increasing it. And the more we do that, we'll say, we are too many in this country. Fine, we need to manage things so that our resources will be enough. But sometimes we need that strength to also improve and move ahead. Because in those their revolution time, that was the time they came and picked people in Africa to become slaves, to work in their industry, to help them to do things. Now they are chilling. They want to just enjoy and use technology to move ahead. But if we cannot get the kind of technology where they have right now, which I know we'll get, we can still use our numbers to get what we want. We should be thinking creatively. Everything is in our mind. Apostle Paul said, be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. The way we think about things, the way we see things. If we change our perspective, we see things better. We see things the way God wants us to see it. From 1970 to 2007, they said that's the third industrial revolution. This was the era when the young boys came on board. Myself, I was giving birth to in this era. The likes of the guys controlling things in the world right now. They were giving birth to the likes of Elon Musk. I don't know Jeff Bezos if he falls into that. But, Zuckerberg, they all came up in this era. And so many things happened because the internet was taken advantage of. Most of the biggest corporations that are running right now, Microsoft, Apple, Facebook, Google, they were giving birth to in this era. And so many things. Information. What this era now affected wasn't the main three pillars that we're looking at then in the society: energy, transportation, and communication. But they brought in things that can enable those things to even move better. We had information, communication, and others in terms of nuclear, microelectronics. This was when the computer chip was made smaller. The first set of computer then, you have to load it into a truck to move. But now we have, my phone is a computer. I just dropped it here and I can use it to do whatever I need to do. Information, technology, computational speed of things improved. I'll tell you the reason why I'm going this line. And we're going to just flow. And, between 2007 and now, they said we're in the fourth industrial revolution. But before then, there's this man, the founder and executive chairman of the World Economic Forum. There are mountains in this world. His name is Klaus Schwab. He's a German engineer. He's a professor, actually. He actually founded the World Economic Forum. It's a private organization. But that organization controls so many things in this world. People kill themselves to go for Davos. I'm sure you've heard of Davos in Switzerland. When it's a yearly event. People kill themselves. Who are the people that go to these people? The movers and shakers of this world. The leaders of corporations. The big corporations themselves. The likes of Dangote, the Tony Lumelu, the Jimovia and the likes. And they now take the presidents, the people in government to go for that Davos conference. There's a similar conference I used to attend when I was in my former organization. The conference started like barely 6 years ago. But the second year of that conference, from 300 participants, it jumped to 1,005. The way they do it is that they approach corporations and say, oh, you're in this business, you do this kind of business, and you are targeting this government organization. What we're going to do, you sponsor that government organization, and we'll take them and you meet there. If I want to meet a minister in Nigeria, it takes me time. I can be on the queue for 1 month. I might not see him eventually. Maybe I'll see the SA to the PA to whatever, and he will see me. But if we go to that conference, he'll be sitting beside me, and we'll be talking. What the organizers of the conference does is that they'll just come to you and say, sponsor this. You pay plenty money, but when you get there, they'll put all of you in a room, and then you can start discussing. They will have, created the agenda and say, this is how this sector of government should be operating going forward. This is what intellectuals are saying. And these companies, they deal in this kind of business to help you get there. They've created a different world from what we look at. The citizens will be shouting, oh, they are not giving contracts. They finish the contracts outside. And when they come back home, everybody will just start executing because somebody has arranged it. The same thing happens almost like in the World Economic Forum. They define things the way the world needs to go. And it's the big guys that are there to eat the major chunk of it. They'll just throw the crumbs to everybody. We need to find our way into those places and then also influence things. The fourth industrial revolution comes back to address energy, communication, and transportation, but on a different level. In terms of energy these days, we hear renewable energy. What is renewable energy? The normal conventional energy, they are saying, oh, it causes pollution, blah, blah, blah. Let's change to something that is green. We want to do green energy. We want to do this. All of that is business for me. It's all about business. Whatever they tell us to do is what we will do. They are the ones controlling. But we need to find our way to take over those mountains and also do stuff. These days, you hear of digital. Everything is digital. They say software is eating up the whole world. If you cannot, every business right now is a software business. Whether you are selling on the road or you are selling in VI, you're actually doing a software business. The church is also going to be a software business. Not literally business, but the way you reach out to people will be software. We want to do online evangelism. We're live streaming right now. It's software that is powering it. Everything that we're doing is software that is doing most of the things. And then we need to start seeing ourselves as that. When, these days people sell on their phones, Instagram. People sell so many things on Instagram. People buy stuff. Uber is cab that we used to know before. It's cab, the yellow cab. But now, when you hear Uber or Taxify, the first thing that comes to your mind is that this is not transportation business. You think in terms of the software that drives. So if somebody works with Uber or Bolt, they say I work with a startup, a Bolt, and you won't think that that person is actually working with something like Ekene Dilichukwu Transport. GIGM was the children of that man that revolutionized that company right now. It's a funky business. People troop in to apply to get job there. But it's still like what Ekene Dilichukwu were doing before. But they've revolutionized it. They've done it in a different way. So we're going to look at certain foundations that have been created to help us do some of the things that we're going to be doing. In the world, we have society, economy, politics, the various pillars that Pastor was talking about, but in different form. There's ethics, there's government, there's technology, there's science. But there are so many things that drives this thing. And the first 5 ones, the ones in white, they are the foundation. You have the internet, social, mobile, cloud, and big data. I'm sure most of you have heard of this thing. They are tech, but I won't bore you. I'll just tell you how to apply them. The next one in green, 3D printing, renewable energy, Internet of Things, cognitive science, drones, all of these, they are what we call systems thinking. We can't be thinking in isolation again, like the 7 mountains or the 8 mountains. All of them will come together to give a particular force for the kingdom of God to take over the world. If we do not affect all of that, if we leave out some of them, there will still be struggle. If you check Deuteronomy 7 that we read, it said you must, if you read the second verse, verse 2, it says you must utterly destroy them. The 7 nations that God was telling Moses when he brought them out of Egypt. He said the Jebusites, Gigacites, all of them, those 7 nations, you must utterly destroy them. You must not leave anyone. You shall make no covenant with them. You shall utterly destroy them. It was specific. If you do not take over all of them, some of them will come and influence the others, and they are going to get back from you. And it's really a fierce battle. It's war. It's war. The business space is actually war. We are at war. We're going to look at what are the scenarios that needs to be created. Okay, so the scenarios, there are a lot of terms there. I just need you to look at them. You can pencil them out and read about them. There is smart grid, connected cars, a whole lot of things. And some of these things, they're actually happening right now. You can hear of smart cities. Cities where everything is almost interconnected and all the rest. You can hear about autonomous cars. But I'd like to draw attention to food 2.0, institution 2.0, money 3.0. Yeah, money is 3.0 there. Yes. No, money 2.0, work 2.0. Okay? These are next level of how we see money. Money especially, I'm sure you've heard of cryptocurrencies and all the rest, block. We need to start studying them. The young guys, the people that are inclined technologically needs to start studying blockchain. What is blockchain? I've been trying my head, racking my head to unravel it. Blockchain. A whole lot of things are riding or are going to ride on blockchain. Cryptocurrency, the government tried banning it. They couldn't. They came up with e-money. There is e-CDs. There is in Kenya, shillings. All the countries, they are also trying to find ways to come in and understand it, because it's going to take them by surprise and they won't really know what's happening. Transactions will be going on that government will not see. It won't go through the regular banks. And if you check the guys that are running these things, they are millennials running these businesses. We need to find out how it works. We need to start learning them. Elder Ayoko was at our branch and he mentioned it. He stressed it a lot. We need to start thinking about it. There's what we call DeFi, decentralized finance. Blockchain technology is about there's no centralized anything. Once nothing is centralized, it means it's decentralized. Control is spread across several people. So nobody can sit like Big Brother and be watching things. So we need to start looking at how does it work? How can we leverage it? Decentralized finance means that if I have 50,000 naira in my account and somebody needs 20,000 and my money is in the DeFi pool, I can actually give out part of it as loan. And the system can actually give out this loan. Instead of giving the loan at 21% or 25% that the banks does, it can give it at 15%. And my money that I've kept, which normal bank will give me, Sister Dupe is there, maybe like less than 2% interest. You know, DeFi system can give me up to, if they earn 15% or 10% on it, I can get like 7 or 8% of that money. Because it's my money and it's in a decentralized system. So those are the ways that people are thinking how to, use blockchain to do a whole lot of things. We need to start finding out. There's so many things that will happen within that space. Every profession is also needed. There are lawyers that are needed in that space that will be doing what we call smart contracts. The contract, everything is online in blockchain. Your agreement is called smart contract. Lawyers will be drafting stuff like that and advising them. We need to start learning. If you're a legal person, you're a lawyer, you need to start learning, the techie ways of executing contracts, laws and all the rest. Food 2.0, they started cloning food. Meat, you can eat synthetic meat. All of that. Well, sometimes we might laugh at it and say, oh, this is... But their thinking is that plant-based nutrients is actually better and healthier. They say people that are, what do they call them? Vegetarian. They are likely to live longer than those of us that eat meat and all the rest. I like meat. That eat meat and stuff like that. But I'm cutting it down, seriously. So they are trying to find ways to create meat from vegetables. And it tastes like meat. Everything works well. People are doing it. If you go to, I'm sure Pastor has experienced most of it. In California, most of their restaurants will be using synthetic meat for you. And you won't know. So these things are happening. For me, I'm very particular about democracy 3.0 and institution 2.0. Okay? Pastor mentioned something I'm working on. And these things, we need to start building what we call platforms. Platforms. People that are controlling this world, they are doing it through platforms. And I want us to quickly read Matthew chapter 20. It was the story of the woman that came to meet Jesus, the mother of the Zebedee's sons, that said, oh, I want my two sons, one to sit at the right and the one at the left in your kingdom. And Jesus said, this thing is hard, though. This thing you're asking is hard. But I want us to focus on verses 26, 27, and 28. When Jesus responded to her, the other disciples heard about it, and they started getting angry. So this woman wants to scheme us out now. They wants our children to be left and right people of Jesus. So I'll read. It says, yet it shall not be so among you, but whoever desires to become great among you, let him be your servant. And whoever desires to be first among you, let him be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life a ransom for many. That last two words, for many, and service. If we're going to take over the mountains, we need to find a way to provide service to many. Because it is service to many that will give us access to those mountains. Media, sports, communication, platforms, they are all targeting masses. Whatever you're going to do, whatever thing you want to be thinking about, you'll be thinking about how can it reach out to the world. Many institutions in your space. How can I reach out to many? There's so many things affecting us in this world. If a whole list of things here. Aging, poverty, climate change, nationalism, terrorism, all sorts of things that are listed there. And whatever technology that is happening right now, whatever anybody is thinking right now, they are focusing on how to solve this problem. If you are not thinking of how to solve this problem, you can't capture them. The discussions that happen at Davos is how to capture this. The rich people are trying to find ways for them not to die again. Anti-aging. You know, you've heard of genome, genetic modifications and all the rest. They're finding root cause of diseases. So cancer, if they find, you're able to plot the genome properly, they can find what causes cancer and they can kill it. So cancers might not kill anybody again in the future if they succeed. And anybody that does that, what happens? Be smiling to the bank easily. So we need to be thinking, these things that are deep, but it's serious work that we need to do. That's why I said there is grace for all sufficiency. But the grace is not for the regular things that we do. They are for the supernatural thing. If you want to eat food, you don't need grace, literally, for it. But if you need to go and kill a whale in the ocean to eat as your breakfast, you need serious grace for that. So we need grace for all of this. My next slide, we'll just look at how all of these are affecting what we're doing. And then I'll quickly move to Joel chapter 2 verse 28. And it shall come to pass afterwards, I have just less than 2 minutes. It shall come to pass afterwards that I will pour out my spirit on all flesh. Your sons, your daughters shall prophesy, your old men shall dream dreams, your young men shall see vision. What is prophecy? Let's not look at it just like you must be speaking in tongues. Oh, you must be spiritual alone. A prophecy is a message that is claimed by a person to have been communicated to them by a deity. Such messages usually involve inspiration, interpretation of dreams, or revelation of the will concerning the prophet's contemporary world or a pre-natural knowledge of events to come in the future. My key phrase is something to come in the future. Your prophecy, when you are prophesying, you should prophesy where Nigeria will be in the future. What is going to happen to our economy? How we're going to improve education. Once you can prophesy, then you can build solutions to back up that your prophecy. You go and wait for your prophecy, and you make money at the end of it. If you are going to dream, it's a series of thoughts, images, and sensations occurring in a person's mind. When you dream about how to make the country better, how to make the society better. Your vision is the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. When you're doing that, think in terms of finding solutions to many, not just limiting our dreams, our visions to the church alone. Okay, I'm going to talk about facing the future. We need to challenge orthodoxies. Whatever we've believed in the past, we need to start asking questions. Are we sure? Pastor made something, he said something yesterday, and I said, yes, sir, thank you, sir. You know, he was talking about praying. It's not because I pray alone in church makes me a Christian that is qualified to go to heaven. My prayers can be out there in the marketplace also. It's a very good way to challenge orthodoxies. Your next trend, what's happening in your environment? How can you leverage what is happening to achieve what you want to do? You have resources. There's a whole lot of resources that we have within ourselves that we're not tapping into. And I'll just quickly mention it by a personal project I'm working on. Okay, the next 2 slides, please. My Connect Yard. You can Google it. It's on Play Store. The iOS version will be out very soon. It's an alumni platform that helps us to manage networks. There's something that we all have that we're not using very well, our network. We've all gone to schools, from secondary school, primary school, tertiary institutions. We've worked in several places. We're not tapping into what is there. And there's something, you need to bring back the connection of the past and the present and start taking advantage of them. We are human beings. The people that slave themselves to go to MIT, to Harvard, and all the rest, the reason why they are doing that is because they want to build their network, They want to be able to connect to bigger guys that will help them to achieve what they want to achieve. We can start building it. If we do not go to Harvard, we did not go to Yale, but how can we use the primary school or secondary school network to do what we need to do? How can we use that to affect our nation? Right now, we're going to have election next year. We can't find credible people to fight for position. Not that we don't have, but people are scared. They don't want to come out. But if we have a very solid network of people that you've gone to school, you've been engaging, you've been interacting in a forum, and then people recommending and say, oh, you're very good in this space now. Why don't you nominate yourself for this position? We'll back you up. If you have valid 5 million, 10 million users that will say we're going to back you up if you go for any position, you will win that election easily. You will win an election easily. We need to find ways to do that. And for me, I'm very passionate about nation building, about how to change this country. I cannot run to Canada. I cannot do that. Maybe my children might decide to go and school, but I want to stay here and build this nation. I believe that this is the land that God has given us. We will reap of this land. It's a good land. We might not be seeing it. Others are seeing it. I want to see what they are seeing. And that's why I'm staying here. We're going to find ways to fix this problem. We will not speak bad about our country. Yeah, we know we have bad leaders and all the rest, but we're going to find ways to affect it. There is something in the previous slide about democracy 2.0. The way governments are being changed right now is from corporation, not by the political scape again. Most countries in this world, is the corporations that are nominating who will be the next president or the next government or governor. They will go and sit and decide, and they will back the person up without us knowing. Let us also find ways to make things transparent. We can build our network bit by bit, one block or another. Within ourselves, let's see what we can leverage. What resources do I need that the other person there has? And we can work together and we'll build this. Thank you very much. God bless you.